World-renowned film producer Anant Singh joins us now to reflect on the life and time of Mr. Mbongeni Ngema. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for your time this afternoon. How were you introduced to Mr. Ngema?
You know, I knew his work, obviously, growing up in Durban. Both of us were from here. We share a birthday, which is probably 3-4 days apart. And his great work of Asinamali and the earlier works that don't really get mentioned, Woza Albert and Township Fever, were really groundbreaking shows for the time. That was in the mid to early 80s, and apartheid was strong and well, and these shows were able to speak out against apartheid in very clever and powerful ways of using music and theater. And I think when I saw these first few shows, I thought, this is such an amazing talent. And obviously, a few years later, he made Sarafina and put that and opened it at the Market Theatre. And that's when I first met him, and when I saw the show and thought this should be an amazing film that needed to be adapted by South Africans.
In fact, Woza Albert was in theatres and reproduced this year. It's gone as far as the Kingdom of Eswatini, also in the year of 2023. Remind our viewers, or introduce some of our viewers to that production. What's Woza Albert all about?
You know, it was a very powerful show about these performers who took on the story of, and you know, it's such a long time ago that I can't remember all the details, and I haven't seen it in the new production. And it's about the journey of these dance people and how they were having difficulties coming through the ranks. But, you know, again, when he went, he took that platform of stage and the storytelling of South African stories to a level that had never been done before. He had been inspired by people like Gibbs and Kente, but, you know, that was more on the entertainment side. But he brought a powerful message into his storytelling, which was so relevant and important for the time. I was trying to do a similar thing in film, so we kind of really hit it off together.
Let's talk about a production that almost everyone knows about, and that would be Sarafina. And not only the storyline, but the music that goes with it. So you think of any scene in Sarafina, there's probably a theme song to that scene that hits home all that much. When you reflect on Sarafina, how would you characterize that production and what it did for South Africa?
You know, I remember very well that first time I went to the Market Theatre to watch it. And you know, it had such energy, it had vibrance, it had power, it had so many elements all working together. It was entertaining. It was a story of hope, you know, and it was a very dark time. Mandela was still in prison, and the show is inspiring the youth and how they go upon their journey with Mandela being the sort of icon that they are living towards. And he successfully managed to weave the storytelling of what was happening in South Africa, 76, the student rebellions, music, dance, production, and all of those elements coming together. And it was not only in South Africa, you know, it then went on to the rest of the world and embraced Broadway with the West End, Los Angeles. You know, it traveled pretty much almost any major city around the world. And that is a huge achievement. And we have to celebrate his talents in being able to do this. Obviously, his work will remain and always be a celebration of his life. But I think all these productions gave people who were without hope, gave them something to look for. And Mbongeni Ngema was a very talented and passionate person about the storytelling. And I think that's one of the reasons we got on so well together, because You know, he had many challenges along the way, and he took them on and continued to prevail. So that really is a true mark of a very special, talented individual.
You mentioned the word challenges, and you cannot think of Mbongeni Ngema without thinking of a time in his life when he wrote a song about the Indian community. Did that come as a shock to you, because it got tongues wagging, and some not in a positive way?
Yeah, and I mean, he and I had a discussion about that. There were many controversies throughout his life, and I think whether it was in his personal life, whether it was relationships, whether it was the choice of songs or what he wrote, and he spoke his mind at all times, and for that you've got to respect him, but at the same time we had a discussion about it and sort of talked about the negative side of fueling a fire, and but it was out there at that point, and there was no logic in trying to do anything other than just move on. And clearly in my relationship with him, I've never had a problem that I felt he was racist or anything like that, and we worked together with people of all races on our shows, and so he was a outspoken person, and that we have to respect.
What did he tell you about his thinking?
I can't even remember now, but I think it was a show, and he wanted to put something across, and something like that. Anyway, I think we should move on and not dwell on that.
Fair enough. What have you taken from the life of Mbongeni Ngema? I ask because especially with a history like South Africa, some parts which are checkered, you've got the so-called freedom, no, not even so-called, you've got freedom fighters, people who fought for the freedom. Then you've got people who were inside South Africa who also played their part, and some of them through song, through film, through theater, just like Mbongeni Ngema. There are songs, for instance, like Lizo Buya, which are still relevant in 2023, or Safa Sapeli Sizwe, which are still relevant in 2023. And so what is it that you have taken? What has he gifted you?
I think it's exactly what you've just mentioned. When you look at Take Sarafina, and all of those songs are in Sarafina, the movie. When we re-released it, and we went back to Cannes to the film festival this year, after a 31-year journey of the first South African film to be in the official selection. Mbongeni Ngema was there, Miriam Makeba was there, Laletti was there, I was there, and it was a 20-minute standing ovation. And then we went back this year, and unfortunately, he was not available to come. But again, the reaction was equally powerful. And the fact that it was 31 years later didn't matter to anybody, because, as you said, those songs are relevant today. It's a different platform in that you've got the story of hope, which is what Sarafina was for the young people then, and it still is a story of inspiration and hope today. And those songs will be timeless, as we hope the film is, and as we've seen, for that matter, 31 years later. And I think as we celebrate Mbongeni Ngema, and the fact that he chose theater, I chose film, and we tried to do whatever we could and to speak out against apartheid during those days when it was unheard of almost to do anything like that. And those platforms were very important, because you could go around the world, show your films, and people get a first-hand knowledge of what was going on in South Africa in those dark days. So we have to celebrate him, celebrate his legacy, and I think it's still important for all those thousands of young people that he brought into theater, brought into dance, into music, into film, that are so important, that because they've found careers, and that is an equally significant achievement on his part, and it's such a sad loss to hear of this last night.
He looked like somebody who was also a disciplinarian. Is that the word? Was he a disciplinarian? Did he want a production to go a particular kind of way? Because for you to achieve those kinds of results, I cannot imagine that for some it was easy working with him, but it was the end goal in mind.
Yeah, it was. There were many challenging moments, and I'll leave it there. I think let the performers talk more about that. But he was a disciplinarian for sure. But ultimately, that's why those shows were so great, because he knew what he wanted, and he brought the performers to a place where they understood that, and it made them look better, and that was the ultimate goal. And I think that vision was of non-compromising was vital.
Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. World-renowned film producer Anant Singh.